Well, let's get started with this. It's very exciting for me because this is one of my favorite topics, is teaching people how to create courses and how iSpring has helped me so much. The skills that I'm going to be talking about today can be used in any profession where there are standards and policies required in regulatory courses. So what we're going to be talking about, basically, how the products that iSpring offers impact the bottom line of regulatory schools. I'm going to show you how you can keep more money in your pocket than you could in other ways, possibly with other types of platforms, and how regulatory requirements are different from corporate training needs. In the past, it was very difficult to find a platform that could offer what we need when we have a school. And with iSpring, it's pretty amazing. We have everything we need. And what are the creative tools that we can use to make these regulatory courses interesting and engaging? Goodness knows they can be about as boring as incredibly boring. Let's just be kind about it. I want to tell you a little bit about my story to let you know where I'm coming from. Right here is my a brief bio of who I am and where I came from. But when I started with distance education, we were using CDs, and it wasn't e-learning. It was using the CD, sending the CDs out to the students along with a, did you ever hear of a floppy disk? Yes, that's what we used to get our records returned to us. And then those had to be read, and paper records had to be kept. And it was just difficult. You really needed a lot of people to pull it all together for you. So that was 99 when I first got my ARILO certification. So some of you know what ARILO is and some don't. ARILO is the Association of Licensed Law Officials, and they provide services to all the regulatory systems for real estate, for appraisal, for all sorts of anything involved in the real estate industry. So they work very closely with all of the real estate commissions. And about that time, let's say 1998, the decision was made that things were happening in the computer world and somebody needed to set up some standards. And that's how we came about with the ARILO standards. So they sat down and they made the rules. So the way that it works is real estate schools have to adhere to certain layers. I'm trying to visualize this for you so that you have it too. Some of you are already doing this, I know. Every state has its own regulations. No state has the same regulations as any other one. It's just a little bit crazy to work with. So that's when ARILO stepped in and said, okay, we're going to put together the rules and regs for the delivery method. And then the states will be required to take care of their own needs as far as setting forth what the schools need as content. So those are the layers that we work with. But the first thing we have to do is write a really good course to meet the needs of the state. So we put together our course, and then we follow the standards of ARILO, take it to ARILO so that they can make sure that they have two reviewers, and they will make sure that everything is copacetic. You know, everything works right. There's enough word count, there's enough interactivity, there's enough interaction with between the student and the instructor. And then once you have a certification, then you take it over to the state, and then the state looks at it for content. Now this sounds like a lot, and it is. So it's going to take you a long time to create the course. It won't take a long time to put it into iSpring, but then it's got to go to ARILO, and they can take 45 days if they want. And then when you send it to the state, it's going to take another 45 days. So what we're looking at here, it may not take that long, but what we're looking at here is let's get it done, let's get it out, let's start making money on it. So that's where I say that iSpring Market, when it's bundled with the iSpring authoring tool, it's just so easy to put it all together. This wasn't the way it was when we started, and 22 years ago. We've come a long way. And during this time, I've had a lot of experience in working with a lot of different schools. So I pretty much know what everybody's doing. And when I was out looking, after I sold my school in 2009, I started looking for another platform because we sold our platform that we had built. And it took me a long time to find iSpring. And when I did, I was so excited. It was really, honestly, like a kid in a candy store. So um, that's what I'm going to share with you today. Some of the things that we had to do, the challenges that we faced. So as I just said, you've got these layers. And so you can see right here what we're dealing with. Along with those layers, the instructor of the course that is Arillo certified must be a certified distance education instructor certified by Arillo. So we're called CEDIS, CEDIS. And then most of the states are now requiring that a CD is the instructor for their state as well. So that's a very important layer. If you haven't already gotten that CD certification, go head over to the Arillo.org site and see what it's all about before you even consider going ahead with the Arillo certification process. So when we look at what actually makes a difference in our bottom line, we have to have a powerful software platform. I've used some really wonky platforms. Really funny things that they do, and they don't work. So that's the thing I went looking for. What is the best software platform that I can find? I tested a lot of them. The second thing that matters to my bottom line is new employees. I had 20 employees. I loved them dearly. If anybody out there is one of my former team members, you know I loved you, but it costs a lot of money. So I made a lot of money and I spent a lot of money, and it didn't put a lot in my pocket. But it was worth it because that company I had, America's Best, helped a lot of people in our area, which is a very small area. We pulled in some tremendous people. But now I don't need employees. I can do everything myself. So the other thing that I needed was an efficient course creation set of tools to operate with. A lot of the platforms that you see out there don't have, well, they may have tools, but they're very difficult to use. And they don't really go with the kind of work that we do, offering these regulatory courses. Then I was looking for, how can I actually deliver this product that I've created that I will believe that is excellent. It's got to be a good delivery system that holds up for me and doesn't drop and doesn't need a whole lot of customer support. And then how am I going to market it? Well, I found that with the real estate with iSpring Market. Prior to, and I loved it as well, I was using iSpring Learn. And last year, almost a little bit more than a year ago, iSpring Market was launched. And when I saw that I could have a marketplace, I jumped right on it. So I was one of the first adopters of it. So I'm just delighted with it so far. So to start with, to get you to come into this webinar, I wanted to talk about the 20 points where I saved money by using iSpring. And I assigned points to it. So tech, you really don't have to worry anything about tech or IT operations because iSpring is so economical and it's a high value for your investment. We don't have any kind of stress involved with, oh my gosh, it's going to go down, or what if it goes down here and there, and this state is closing their CE classes out at a certain time, and we can't afford to have the system go down. I have never worried about the tech part of using iSpring. And then the tech support. Oh my goodness, I love these people. If you're listening, tech support, you know how much I love you. Um, I've never waited more than an hour. And it really wasn't support I needed, it was more confusion on my part because I was seeing something one way, and I wasn't quite getting how the system worked over time. But now I haven't talked to tech support in a while. I'll just have to call and chat. And it really is 24/7. I've called them on Sundays. I've called them and left a note. Typically, I just send an email and boom, they're right back. Hey, Susan. So that is worth so much money to me. You don't have to have that now, you know. So employees, as I talked about my employees, this alone is worth 20 points because not only do you have the wages, you've got the taxes and benefits and training of them and sometimes turnover and then management. So my goodness, there's 20 points. Office space, we kept growing and growing and growing and having to move. And now I'm sitting here in my home office and it's not costing me anymore. So it's fabulous. I don't have the big equipment that I had to have. I don't have 20 computers out there. I don't have my big mailing machines. Uh, I, it's just fantastic. There is no need for a graphic designer because that's all done for us right here. I'm so excited about that. We've got our backgrounds, our templates, our characters, objects, icons, everything we need to just move forward and get the work done. The student records, oh my goodness. We have to keep records for, depends on the state, but 3 to 5 years. 3 to 5 years. I used to have a couple of people keep control of those records for me because we had hundreds of thousands, honest to gosh, of records, paper records. We printed out, we kept them on file, we had file cases everywhere. I don't have to have that anymore. My records are right inside the software, right inside in reports. I can pull them up when I need them. And Arillo, every time we renew our courses, which is every 3 years, we have to send in our records, our reports on timing to prove that we have actually been in control of our course. The quizzes, oh my goodness. The quizzes alone are worth $1 million. You can do anything you want with your quizzes. So if you haven't gone into Explore, go in and get a copy of iSpring and just take a look at it and play with the quizzes. I use quizzes as a learning tool. I don't know if everyone does, but I certainly do. So that value to me is just huge. Oh, and one tip I wanted to share with you because I like to put some personality into quizzes and into simulations and such. And what I found was, let's say I'm working in a state, specifically I'm writing a course for, I don't know, South Carolina. I can go to the Social Security baby names, honest to goodness, go to baby names, or popular names is what they are, and you can find the names that were popular. Let's say the average real estate agent is between 45 and 55. So you back up, you pick the year those people would have been born, and you use the names from their time, so it's very familiar to them. So you're not using a goofy name. You're using something people like that they're familiar with. It might even be their name. Okay, so the next thing that I love probably the most, if I could only have one thing, is in the old days, like last year, we called it flip books, but now they're just called books. When I write my courses, I have to adhere to the standards, obviously, and they go by word count. And a word count for just an intermediate course is 200 words a minute. That's a heck of a lot of words. And when you write out your course and you say, oh my gosh, how am I going to lay this out in the course page after page after page. No, I create the entire course. I break it up into 12.5-minute segments. I create 12.5-minute segment books, put my graphics in there, whatever I need. That's my word count. And that, especially for law courses and things like that, where you think, oh my goodness, how am I going to deal with all these words? So that's your word count. Now, you're obviously also going to use that content with activities and questions and maybe do a little video or whatever also in that course. But that book is your base. And I may go over that again because I like to emphasize that. That's the most valuable thing I've got. So as I just mentioned, the interactions come right after the book, and the quizzes come right after the book. And maybe there's a video that you want to show. But anyway, that's what iSpring has done for me. It saved me time, saves me money, and as we all know, time is money. So we can get our package out quickly, get it on the market, and have people buying it. Let's talk a little bit more about that time in the course. If you're writing a course that is very basic, and I hesitate for a moment because I don't really think that the like the real estate pre-license course is very basic, but for that they want 250 words a minute. Oh my goodness, that's a lot. And then as I mentioned before, the intermediate course is 200. And then if you have a very complicated course, which typically we don't deal with in the normal realm of real estate, but it could be, something on mortgage brokerage or other finance or something complex, that you can call in and say, or you can send it in and say, okay, I need a less word count because there's more detail into it. Next would be the communication between the instructor and the student. This is really critical. As soon as someone purchases a course, of course, I see that immediately because I get an email. I send them an email and communicate back and forth with them. I keep an eye on my students all the time, every day, check them out, make sure they're coming through okay. I watch if they're having, they're slowing down, they haven't been back in a week. I just send them a note and find out how they're doing. So that communication is real easy within iSpring. And next, that interactivity we talked about, oh goodness, there's so many fun things. You can get lost in the interactivity. This right here, this was just a screen from one activity, and I brought in a character that is offered by iSpring, and it works because this is as you push on one of these, as you hit on the different areas, a different screen opens up. So it's very neat. Okay, then for resources, I do a lot of research, and I'm sure you probably do too if you're actually in doing courses right now. So you'll end up with a lot of things that you're not going to necessarily use right away in the course. There is a place where you can put your resources, and it's normally up here at the top. I pulled it off here because I wasn't adding any resources, but it would be up here, and you click on that and you see a whole drop-down list of resources that you have saved. You can either tell the student that send the student, not tell them, send them to go and look at a contract, bring it up, look at it, answer questions on it, etc. Or they can just be for continued learning, future learning, because adults are always building on the information that they currently have. So when I think about the things that make me happy about iSpring, are the things that make the course interesting, because it's easy to get bored when you're writing technical things like we do. So that flip book, as I said, if there's nothing else I do, it's the flip book. That's my favorite. Then the quiz master, everything we can do, the templates, the characters that they're offered, the records reports in the marketplace. All right, so let's move on to the templates, the characters in the background. I think there are quite a few people who have not, actually do not have the iSpring product right now. So you can go in and take a look at those. Look at the numbers, 65,000 character images. Now there are 65,000 people. There are each individual people in all sorts of positions. So you could have, if you're looking for somebody who's saying, yeah, that was great, this gal's got her finger up. This one here is telling you, look up here. And the fellow over here, of course, writing on the board. So it's so fun. You can just get lost in doing that. But it's very important to have those because it creates a personality. What I do in particular, let's say I write long courses, sometimes 30 hours, 60 hours. So for each chapter, I will have a different person. So this gal might be in chapter 1, chapter 2, chapter 3. So I have all these choices. And that person will go all the way through that chapter with the student and write through the quizzes. And then it's just, I can even put the voiceovers too if I want to. So that's really just an excellent tool. The location images. So depending on what you want to be, what you're talking about, inside, outdoors, stadiums, classrooms, you've got over 1,000 locations that you can choose from. And then the slide templates. I'm not a designer, and for me to sit down and create a good slide would be it wouldn't be pretty. I'll put it that way. But you can go and pick a theme that you like, and you've got your template all laid out. All you have to do is drop your material in there. Change the pictures if you want to. Change the color if you want to. Change the font if you want to. But everything's laid out. What you're looking at in these screens that you're seeing today, that's just one template I chose because I really, really liked it. Okay, then let's talk about records and reports and how this does save you time. And when you go back to either the state to show them what you've done or what you can do with your reports, or to Arillo, they're right here. It looks pretty simple, but you could go to your user activity. What content did the user actually use? I use that personally just to make sure they're covering everything that they're supposed to be covering. And if they miss a segment or they skipped over it on purpose, I can go back and say, hey, that question or that assignment that I gave, you did not fill it out. Can you go back and do that, please? Or another thing that's very important, I think, from the viewpoint of an instructor, is the attempt detail. So when in the quizzes, what did the user answer? And how did they do? Because if I'm seeing that a number of people, a large number of people, are getting a particular question incorrect, it's either I've not given good information in the course or it's a poorly written question. So I can go in and change it. Boom, just like that. So that makes it really more valuable for all of us. And the learning path, I haven't talked about the learning path yet. Learning path is where you put your, I'm calling them courses. They call it, iSpring calls it courses, I'm sorry. I call it chapters. And I have 275 chapters in my bank of material within my learning management system. So I could pull out any number of those and create a learning path with them. Typically what I'm doing is just taking all the chapters for that course and tying them together, and that's a learning path. So how are your users doing in that learning path? Are they succeeding or are they not? If they're not succeeding, let's go in and look and see why. So that's super important there. The marketplace, I just pulled up, you can choose one of your courses to highlight. In this case, I just pulled up a 30-hour course, the advanced post-license course. And that's right on the front, at the top of the front of my marketplace. I could put and I can have a whole list of all my courses underneath that. Someone could come in, they wanted to see what is actually in that course, they can click and they can go down and see the outline. So this is just invaluable. And you can have these, so you can set them up so that they are accessible to all the search engines. Extremely valuable. And it's very clear how to do that. So today, hopefully, you have learned how these products that iSpring offers us positively impact the bottom line of regulatory schools. Uh, and one thing I didn't mention is if you haven't already looked at the pricing, it's quite amazing. It's quite amazing per student what it costs you to put all this out on the market. It's great. And then you've learned, hopefully, how the regulatory requirements are different from corporate training needs. Corporations, um, I haven't really worked in a corporation other than my private corporations, but their training is essentially very different from what we have to do. And you've learned about the creative tools that can make our regulatory courses interesting and engaging. And if you have any future questions, you've got my email here. Go ahead and send me a note. You can text me or call me. I'm wide open for that. I do consulting for large schools, small schools, startup schools, and instructors and schools moving from classroom, which is not working here in the United States for a while, to going online. So with that, I will close and ask for questions. And Paulina, it's back to you.
Thank you so much. At this point, we are ready to start our Q&A. If you have any questions, please share in the comments section, and I'd be happy to address them to Susan. But I do have a list of questions that I received in the email, so I am happy to start with this one. And the first question is, how much money do I need to start an online school?
Okay. If you're going to purchase, I'm presuming you have not purchased the iSpring product. You're looking at about $2,000 a year for iSpring Max and for the market. Then when you go to Arillo, you're looking at the first course that you send in is going to be a little over $800. And then the second course and any thereafter are less expensive, 700 or 600 per course. Then when you go to the state that you want to be working in, or states eventually, then they have their cost, but that is not extreme. Sometimes it doesn't even cost to have a school. So you've got your instructor cost, your instructor fees, your school fees, and then a course fee. So to start off, you really do need to have some money in the bank. Does that help?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
We'll see. And the next question is, how do you get the students to enroll in your school?
Well, the marketplace helps a lot, but what a lot of people really aren't aware of is that every state has, obviously, they have a list of everyone who's licensed in the state. And I'll give you, for instance, Washington State. All I had to do was send a request, an official request, and I was able to get the name, address, when they were licensed, when their license is due, their email address, their phone number of every licensee in Washington State. I can do that in every state.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Yep.
Thanks a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Next question, I think it's connected to the one about the budgeting. But how do you collect fees from the students who have enrolled in your school?
It's so easy. I use PowerPoint, not PowerPoint. What did I say?
I don't know.
PayPal. I lost it. I totally lost PayPal. And they have a choice of another platform as well. But I use PayPal, and it's all connected through iSpring, and it's very, very simple. If you already have a business account uh, in PayPal, you can just hook it up right away. And if you want to create one, it's really easy. And then your money just drops in immediately. You don't have to wait. It's right there.
Thank you so much for the answer. And I would like to maybe wrap up our session with this last question. What are the benefits and challenges of owning such a school?
Oh, the challenges, well, I mentioned previously, I had the expenses of having employees, but if we're only doing it online, I don't see a challenge.
Hmm.
I really don't see a challenge um, from using the iSpring products. You can do it anywhere you are. You can go on vacation when you want, and you're still hooked up with totally connected with your students. Um, so as far as challenges, the benefits are your bottom line. I'll be quite frank with you. Um, when I sold my business, the 3 years previous, because that's what you have to show when you're selling a business, I made $1.2 million a year. So I was making $100,000 a month. Yes, you can do that with online. Of course, I spent $100,000 a month, as I said, but right now I wouldn't. Right now I wouldn't. And I can go to as many states as I want to again, because I'm licensed in 40 states as an instructor.
Hmm.
So, oh, I want to throw in one more thing before we close.
Hmm.
One of the benefits that I see, I'm going to go back to Flipbook because I got a little discombobulated when I couldn't pull it up, but I wanted to tell everyone that everything I write, absolutely everything, I write to the Arillo standards. And that's for my benefit as well as just because I have to sometimes. Because when I put those 12 and a half minutes into a Flipbook, what I also have is something that I can um, I can sell to other schools around the country. I can sell that because I've created it to the standards, and I'm not giving them anything from iSpring. What I'm giving them is the product that all they have to do is drop it into their own platform. I've made a lot of money that way over the last 11 years, almost 12 years. That's a key there. And then you can use that 12 and a half minutes as a blog post, or you could put it in Page, which is also part of iSpring. And you can send it out as a newsletter, but always, always, always create to the standards. And then you've got something that's worth money. Okay, that's my hint
Hmm.
for the day.
Thank you. Thank you so much. All right, everyone. Thanks a lot for staying with us till that very point. We very much appreciate your coming to this session to hear what Susan has to say about iSpring and how she is able to successfully run her online school using iSpring SuiteMax and iSpring Market. And of course, thanks to you, Susan, for tuning in and for sharing your story.
Thank you very much. It's been a pleasure. Thank you all.
Wonderful. All right. I hope that everyone has a wonderful day, and I will see you at the next webinar. Bye, everybody, and bye, Susan.
Okay, bye.